From who knows where, here's a couple of guys who talk sports, bet on sports, and complain about sports. The Better or Worse podcast with Rick, Shaw, Randy, and Mitch.
All right, so Rick Shaw is still licking his wounds from last night. He's going to be a couple minutes late. But in the meantime, we're going to talk football with Matt Wood, who's a director of radio and director of sports. Is that right, Matt? Are you director of sports for a radio station, kind of?
Sure, that sounds pretty good. We'll go ahead and roll with that title. Why not?
And he, I can't wait for Randy to get on here because I just found out that Matt is a big-time Ohio State fan. As you can see behind him, he's from up in that area. It looks like he's also a Packers fan, but definitely a Cleveland Browns fan. And I think it's going to get very interesting when we start talking a little college football today. So real quick, I just found out you're an Ohio State fan. Have you been a lifelong Buckeye?
Born and raised in Ohio. So yes, I thanks to God, I was born in the great state of Ohio and born a Buckeye. So yes, and that's where I became the Cleveland Browns fan. So he giveth and taketh away when it comes to the aspect of being a successful fan for a while. So yeah, no, I love it. You can't beat it.
This year, I mean, going into the season, what are the hopes like? I hear you run a fan base, or you have a Facebook group or something, a fan base. What are the hopes about this year with Cleveland?
It's about as high as it's ever been, and literally going back to the Bernie days, and that's just kind of how it was. The way it kind of ended with before the let's just say freeze, thanks to Art Modell. It's just been a train wreck ever since they've come back, and a lot of it's been self-inflicted. And that's just poor leadership, bad hires, and just kind of a mess. So this year, it really feels like A, they have smart people in place. B, they're letting those people do their jobs, which has been a real problem. And C, it's working. When you really look at the roster top to bottom, there's not a lot of holes. Knock on wood. Last year, their defense sucked. I mean, let's be real. Their defense sucked. And there's a reason that this defense, week one, if everyone stays healthy, no one pulls a Cam Akers or anything like that, God forbid, you could have 10 new starters on defense. Remember versus that game against Pittsburgh. There's a ton of optimism, but it's going to take a little bit to kind of get everything going. But I mean, you could really say the Cleveland Browns are the best team in the AFC North and not sound like you're, high on crack for the first time in about 20 years.
No, I definitely agree with that. Is the only one that you've got penciled in returning then on the starters Garrett? Outside of that, everybody was replaceable?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about Sheldon Richard was fantastic, but now he's going to be in Minnesota. Olivier Vernon, you feel terrible for. He was playing pretty well for the Browns, but then he had the Achilles injury. I think he's still a free agent. Their linebacking core was a mess last year. Their secondary was even worse, and they went out and replaced them. I mean, they were really smart in free agency. So, yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, Myles Garrett is, again, you can say I'm a Browns fan or whatever. I think he is the best edge defender in the NFL. And it's
a solid argument. That's a solid argument. Definitely. So, listen, with the Browns, I mean, first of all, you start with the whole division, and I'm not convinced that Ben Roethlisberger coming back from Pittsburgh is going to do anything at all for them.
Agreed.
And I think they just lost one of their best linebackers. I thought they lost maybe Dupree, or they lost one of their linebackers.
Dupree he signed with Tennessee, and they replaced him with Melvin Ingram. Yeah.
So I think, listen, they were built that team on defense last year, and I don't know. I don't see them really taking any steps forward. Listen, I think we've learned about Lamar Jackson in that there's probably going to be a playbook now on how to stop him, and it's whatever anybody does in the playoffs, do that in the regular season, and you stop him. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, because he disappears in the playoffs. So whatever formula it is that people use in the playoffs, bring that to the regular season. So yeah, if I was a lifelong Browns fan, I would say going into the season, as far as in my lifetime, except for back in maybe the mid '80s, this is probably the best going into a season that I would feel. I mean, that you guys there was two backs back in the day. I think Biner was one, and Kevin Mack and Biner way back in the day.
Yeah.
I think we're at one time that team was really solid. So when you have the dog pound, the original real dog pound, when people were throwing dog biscuits around and people were getting rowdy when it was crazy.
Myself was there, and John Elway had it coming, so to hell with him. Unfortunately, you know who.
Yeah, so listen. I would say going into this season, if you're a Browns fan, you got to be very optimistic. I don't think anybody else in the league yet has stepped up to catch the Chiefs. I think they've still got to be the front runner coming out of the AFC.
Yeah.
But hey, I think this is if I'm the Browns, I think this is the year that we say we have to figure out if Mayfield's our guy for the next 10 years. And I think this is the year you figure that out.
Yeah, and look, I think it's legit. I think sometimes Baker gets not underrated. That's not the right word, but almost a little bit forgotten about because he's not asked to be Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And we see like Lamar Jackson is supposed to be that dude. And there are times he is that guy. Yep. And you have to be almost supernatural, but Baker doesn't have to be. He's got the best ground attack in the NFL.
Yep.
With Chubb and Hunt to turn around and hand it to. He's got a fantastic wide receiver core. Honestly, I think Kevin Stefanski is a really good play caller. He doesn't have to be great. He can be. He definitely shows his flashes. And when Baker gets hot, I mean, he can throw it with anybody. But I think you almost have to kind of relax him a little bit, make sure he doesn't do any of that crazy stuff where he can kind of get into that Baker gunsling mode, and that's when the Browns can kind of get into trouble. But it'll be fun to see this is the first year, probably going back to, I think, Baker Mayfield's, junior year that he's had the same offense. And so think about
Baker Mayfield. So there's a lot of Baker Mayfield in. We're going to get into like Aaron Rodgers, and you just brought up Mahomes. We're going to get into some quarterbacks. My critique of Baker Mayfield for the last 2 years has been the same thing. When I bet on them, I get so angry when I see him do the same damn thing. As soon as the rush gets to him, his first thing is to turn his back to the offensive line and run like a big U loop out and try to run around the back of the rush instead of stepping up into the pocket. Yeah. It's been my biggest thing with him. Hey, Rickshaw, we're sitting here talking. Rickshaw, just to give you a heads up, you see that little helmet behind him, Matt?
I do.
Okay. We're joined by Matt, who is a lifelong Buckeye.
Oh my God!
This is going to be a great conversation.
We got a Buckeye on the show.
And let me tell you something. I've got the stick over here to stir this shit all up. It's fantastic.
Yeah, guy, and I know you will.
So we were talking about the Browns, and he's a big Browns fan, and where they are going into the season, I agree with him. I would say going into the season, I actually favor them over the Ravens to come out on top of that division. I'm not impressed at all. Obviously not impressed with the Bengals. I don't know what we're going to get out of Burrow coming back off his horrific injury last year. He looked incredible when he was playing, but that team around him didn't get any real better. And then you have Roethlisberger's, I don't know if he's trying to, I don't know why he's even back. He looks way out of shape. He's always injured.
He always looks out of shape. Even when he's in shape, he looks out of shape.
Yeah, but he could barely move at the end of last year. It was just awful watching him at the end of last year. You got Lamar Jackson, and I just mentioned to Matt, listen, if any defensive coordinator doesn't pull up the last 2 years playoffs and be like, this is the game plan, don't look at any regular season. Just pull up the last 2 years playoffs, and whatever those teams did against him, that's your defense. Because he can't figure it out in the playoffs. So, the Cleveland Browns should be looking really strong coming out of that division. Any thoughts on that? It's got to be hard for you being a Michigan guy talking good stuff about Ohio. I know that. So what do you got?
I actually think the Browns could actually come out of that division. I still think the Ravens are the team to beat there, and it's just going to be. I can't wait till we get into our NFL season preview because there's so much that we got to delve into regarding some of these teams. I do agree with you. I think Ben Roethlisberger has seen his best days. I don't see him having a big year. I actually want to see him and Tom Brady in a foot race. That's the race I want to see. Maybe we could throw Matt Stafford in there too, and see.
That's where my money's going on that. I'll be all over it, and it'll be the biggest bet of the day.
What's
Tom
that?
Brady. Tom Brady.
Think so? Oh
But
yeah.
ROI. You always bet on Tom Brady, no matter what. You bet.
That's
on
true.
Tom
You always
Brady.
bet on Brady. Right.
It's ROI. I want the money back. I don't just want to give it away. So that's an easy one. All right, listen. One of the things that's going on, and it's really starting to make headway, and it just came out yesterday. We've been touching on this for a while now, and it's Aaron Rodgers. So it came out yesterday that he turned down, and again, we don't know who's right, who's wrong. We don't know if this is Schefter putting shit out there like he does, but it came out yesterday that he turned down a contract offer extension that would have made him the highest paid quarterback or maybe a player in football. Did you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
What is that? So what the first thing I did was I wanted to jump in and see what the odds were to win the AFC to win the NFC North, and I wanted to see the over-unders on all the teams. So that was the very first thing I did. And we'll get to those odds in a second. What are your guys' thoughts? Matt, what's your thoughts on Aaron Rodgers? Do you think he's going to be back in Green Bay?
I do. I mean, where else is he going to go? He had the one trump card of hosting Jeopardy, but okay, that went away. So it's pretty much show up and don't work. So I mean, if he calls the bluff, go for it. But unfortunately, for him, the Packers hold all the cards here, and they can kind of say either show up or don't. And I don't think they're going to trade him, and I think that's what it'll end up being. If he retires, he retires. But if I have to guess, he'll probably hold out for a little bit of training camp. But I'm guessing week 1 he's a starting quarterback.
Yeah,
Rickshaw.
I can't believe I'm going to agree with a Buckeye, but I do. I honestly think that Aaron Rodgers has nowhere else to go. I mean, but I don't understand his play here. I mean, if you're going to get a contract that's going to make you the highest paid player, what is his beef with the Packers that's so great that we're going through all these gymnastics? That's what I want to know.
This guy has seen himself push out other people 2 different times. He pushed out Brett Favre. Let's not get that any confusion there. He also pushed out McCarthy. All the rumors were that he pushed out McCarthy. This guy, and the funny thing is, if he would come out and say, I don't want to play here because I don't think they're about winning right now, I would be on his side. I'm not on his side on the fact that he doesn't want to play because the GM didn't tell him who he drafted. I do believe he is not going to play for the Packers. I am sold that he will not play and try to win for that GM. I think his contempt for that GM, I think he's already shown that he can push people out 2 or 3 times. And I think he's happy living with this actress he's living with now. She's making some money too.
Do you think this is all about Jordan Love?
100%. 100%. And it's because they didn't consult him. These guys listen, you're talking about an ego. You're talking about a guy who behind Brett Favre and managed to push Brett Favre out and then managed to push out Mike McCarthy that I believe they won a Super Bowl together. He was able to push that guy out. Once that happens, you've created a monster in his head if you're that organization. He truly believes he holds all the cards. He is not a guy that wants to go out. I don't think it's the money. But he knows he can go out and be in movies. He can go do whatever he wants in Hollywood. It's not about money. It is simply, and he said that, I do not expect him to play. If I was the GM and I wanted to save my job right now, I would be on the phone to Miami or I would be on the phone to the Saints, and I would see if I could get, again, I'm not a Tua fan, but if Tua is as good as everybody is, I would say, hey, will you take Rodgers and we'll take Tua? That's what I would do if I was them, because instantly Miami becomes a Super Bowl contender. Listen, that guy made the worst draft of all time last year in Green Bay by taking Jordan Love, not even taking him. He moved up to take him and traded. Yeah. He traded up to take him. Then his second pick in the draft was a backup running back, which is still a backup running back. Yeah. So his first 2 picks last year was the worst thing I've ever seen. And if that's what Rodgers would say, I would say, yeah. And then we kick the field goal and we're down by 8 on the 5-yard line. I don't want to be here anymore. I'd be all for that. That's about winning. This is about an ego. And it's about an ego of a guy that's already pushed other people out that look like mainstays there. So I am 100% sold he is not their quarterback. And if I'm the GM of that team, I'm trying to save my job. I'm trying to find a place to put him. I keep hearing Denver, but Miami wins. Miami gets Rodgers, they can get rid of Tua. I think that's the other worst pick I've ever seen was Tua, because he can't throw the ball 20 yards. He's got Drew Brees syndrome already, and he's only 22. He can't throw it 20 yards. So they're stuck. I think that's a good fit. Aaron Rodgers goes down to Miami. He loves beach life. He likes that California kind of scene. He can hang out on the beach. And I think that makes them a contender. That would be the play. If I'm the NFL, I'm actually trying to orchestrate that because you need Aaron Rodgers.
Well, let me ask you this: how many years does Aaron Rodgers still have left? I mean, what are we talking about? 3, 4, 5 years, maybe?
2. Two or three.
I don't know,
Two,
man.
maybe three. His last year, his last 2 years were off the charts. The year they drafted Jordan Love, his numbers were 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Then they went out and they drafted a guy that led college football in interceptions. That's who Jordan Love led college football, and he was throwing against D-backs that less than 1% of them made the NFL in a conference where nobody makes the NFL, and he's throwing it to the wrong guys.
Mitch, you need to get more passionate. That's all I can say. Hey,
it's the worst pick we've ever seen, Randy. We went over this that night. It blew my mind.
I know, right?
So, anyway, getting back off my rant.
Well, let me ask Matt. Matt, who do you think that Aaron Rodgers could be traded for if there is a trade scenario out there?
As a Browns fan, honestly, Denver scares the hell out of me. Denver's got a really good roster, and if he would go there, it makes a lot of sense. The Miami one, okay, but I don't want Tua back if I'm Green Bay. I mean, give me picks. And so that's the thing. I think the salary cap implications would hurt him. That puts a ton of pressure on Jordan Love. If you trade Aaron Rodgers. And that's the other thing that really sets you up. Yeah, if you get rid of him, okay, but if this Jordan Love doesn't come in and set the world on fire, you're in deep doo-doo. But I'm not trading him in the NFC. That's the last place I would send him. And, you try your best to find somebody. But that's why, like San Francisco, like all that doesn't make any sense to me. It would be Denver or somewhere else where I look at the schedule and say, God help me, when do I never see this guy again?
Right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's just one of those scenarios that's hard. It's really hard to understand. And here's what makes it even harder. So like I mentioned, I went in and I looked at the odds. So to win the NFC, these two things don't match up. I looked at to win the NFC North and then the over-under in wins. So to win the NFC North, they've got the Packers at minus 140, the Vikings at plus 200, the Bears at plus 450. The Lions are the Lions.
Lions are going to win the division. What are you talking about?
Okay. So then you look at the wins, and they've got the Pack to win it at minus 140, but they've got their over-under at 9.5. That 9.5 number tells me they don't. Those two things don't match up. Thinking they can win the NFC North, but win it with 10 wins doesn't make any sense, because if Rodgers is there, the rest of that division is cooked, which would mean they should win 11 or 12 games. So when I looked at this, I'm like, wait a second, these numbers don't make sense, because if you believe the Pack you don't think the Pack can win the NFC North with Jordan Love as their starting quarterback. I don't think anybody would think a rookie would come in or a second-year player in the first year would win that division.
He might be the best quarterback in that league once Rodgers leaves. I mean, let's be honest. You've got Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff.
What would that be? What would that be? Listen,
I don't even know.
None of those guys led college football in interceptions. None of them. Yeah. So there is no step up from. I mean, listen, Goff is you got to deal with.
No,
Goff
but they're leading the NFL interceptions. That's the point, right?
You got to. Yeah. So he fits right in. Yeah. There you go. The over/under in the division should be about 100 for interceptions. Let's go with that one.
Well, he'll be whoever has the best running game. That's probably Minnesota. Yeah. So
that's an interesting listen. Well, the Green Bay's got that third string running back they drafted last year in the second round they could throw in there. So I don't know. But my bet right now, so I tried to analyze this, and I think there's a strong bet in this. So the bet, you could go up and throw 1,000 on the Vikings and 1,000 on the Bears. If you think Rodgers isn't going to be the quarterback, you can take two teams to win the NFC North, the Vikings and the Bears. Then you would break even on your bet if the Vikings win it, but you'd win 3.5 times on your bet if the Bears win it. So you'd get two teams. You're rooting for the Bears, but the Vikings save you. That's what you could do if you think Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be the quarterback. Hey, it's a good bet.
And then the Lions win it all. You're broke. That's how it works out. But yeah.
What do you call those? The locks? Okay, we'll give you that. That's your lock, Randy. You take the Lions as a lock, like the Suns on the money line. Those are the locks.
I am taking the over 7 wins. I am doing that. Right. Here we go. So,
you are?
Wait a second.
You're taking the Lions over 7 wins?
Oh, yeah.
Are they playing high school teams? Who are they playing?
Well, they're playing Minnesota twice. They're playing Green Bay twice. And they're playing Chicago twice. There's a possibility for 6 wins right there.
Randy, we gotta talk off air about some of the stuff that you're gonna do. It's absolutely insane. It's beyond insanity. So listen, Matt, I know that you like to get some action in on games. Have you been out? And I heard that is your preference to Westgate?
Yes, sir. That's where I like it. It's kind of been a tradition from my father and I, and yeah, man, you can't beat it.
It is. Listen, when you go in there, you know you're going to get every game on TV. Their middle ground on the customer service with the beers, I'd say the middle ground. They do have the girls running around. Running is not the right word. Walking slowly around. But the Westgate, you always get your games. And so if you're in there and you want to see your games, and I think that's what he's got pulled up behind us, is the Westgate.
So, Matt, are you a Raiders fan?
I appreciate their app. Their app works well, too. And that's, if you don't want to get up, because we were there for the first round of the NCAA tournament. Yeah. And, that line is, 1,000 people long, even with all the COVID stuff and everything. Like, man, you're just able to sit there and just pull out the phone. I know, I'm sure the other ones have it as well, but that one was just so easy to work with. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, and I think they got in-game. And I think they got live in-game odds only in their app. You can't get them at the window, but you can get it in the app. So if you like in-game and you're coming to town, that's definitely an app to get. So one of the things that just came out about Westgate yesterday, I think, was they were one of the 3 casino groups that just mandated masks. So they're going back to the mask mandate. I know it for their employees, but I think they're going to actually go August 1st. I think they're going back to mask mandate for the patrons too.
Who were the other 2?
Sands. One of the off-strip casinos.
Okay, I'm making sure I stay away from those.
It's definitely, it's not South Point. It's not Resorts World. None of the places that we've been going or anything like that. It's not, and it's not anything stations. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but that was the one that stood out to me. I'm like, oh, okay. Because I tend to go there quite a bit. Westgate, it's across from the Las Vegas Country Club. That's Randy's favorite hangout spot in town.
Right, Matt. And so if you're at the Westgate, our pal Jay Schrader's there all the time doing the Raiders stuff. Do you see Jay when you're out there? Are you a Raiders guy?
No. I'm not, and it's a shame because hey, that'd be a cool thing. It's nice to see that Vegas getting the more and more actual. That sounds dismissive, but the actual sports teams, the big that's phenomenal. The fan base out there has been amazing to see. The Knights really had a home ice advantage this year, man. That's awesome to see.
Yep.
And that was the worst game of the football season last year. Raiders Browns. Remember that game with the wind blowing the field goals halfway across the field?
Yeah,
the final score was 6-3 or something.
Yeah, and the Raiders got the win because they just straight up controlled the line of scrimmage. They just did. I mean, that was a Gruden special right there. Jacobs picking up, I swear to God, 4.5 yards every carry, just bled it to death. It sucked to watch. That's Cleveland Browns football for you right there.
It was a brutal game. All right, stay with us, guys. And Matt, we're going to bring you right back. We're going to talk some more sports. We're going to throw a quick commercial in here for Sport Hitters. Hey, Kelly, can you do me a favor? Can you bring up Elon Musk real quick and play that clip? This is me every time you mention the Detroit Lions, Randy.
Yeah.
I'm going to bet on the Detroit Lions. I got nothing. I turn into a guy like Elon Musk.
Hey, I'm still waiting to hear the accolades for my picks on Monday. Come on, let's hear them.
Oh, I got slapped. Let me tell you something. I got slapped hard on Monday. 0-3, and it was ugly. It was ugly.
I saw it. I'm just saying. And guess who was 3-0 plus?
Were you?
Plus my pick of the day, the Milwaukee Bucks -5.
Yeah. All right. So you've won 4 in a row. You got 20 to go.
Yeah.
You got 20 to go, buddy.
Just saying, every time you play that Elon Musk, little clip there, I want you to think about the 4
Okay,
and
now bring my guy up. Now bring up my guy, Ricky Bobby. Now bring up my guy, Ricky Bobby. And this is what it feels like when you're 24-0.
Plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence, and nobody can hang with my stuff. I'm just a big, hairy American winning machine. If you ain't first, you're last.
That's right.
I'm talking about
That's how you live when you're 24-0, my man.
Ricky Bobby.
Get there.
But right now, you're living in the past. You're living in the past, pal. That's the past. Let's talk about the future.
Hey, listen, we got college football. Listen, we live and we eat, prime rib during football season, right? I can't wait for football because football is where we do our best. It's where, to me, college football and NFL is where people that like sports betting live. It's where you live, and you live there 18 hours a day, Monday through Sunday. So it's just around the corner. Like I said, I've already started pulling up futures. I'm trying to listen. I might have to send a tweet out to Aaron Rodgers just to see how he responds. I want to know where he's playing because if he's not in Green Bay, all the money is shifting immediately to Minnesota.
Yeah,
immediately.
Let me know if you need a loan. Just FYI, I can shift some money to you if you're going to bet it all on the Green Bay Packers, or against the Green Bay Packers. I'll give you some high interest on that one.
We can't miss the fact that we have a Buckeye and a Michigan Wolverine here. When is that game this year? I'm assuming you guys have both penciled this in. Is that right?
It's the same time every year. It's the last game, last week in November, whatever that Saturday is, and
didn't they play it early?
Saturday after Thanksgiving, right?
Did they play it early last year? Wasn't that an earlier game last year because of COVID? It was earlier in the season, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't really remember. I mean, last year was. I don't know what last year was. Yeah.
It wasn't the normal date. No, last year. It's always the last Saturday, the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Okay.
That rivalry day.
What's the feeling about Ohio State this year? Like what going into it? I mean, I'm assuming they're stocked with another quarterback.
Sky's the limit. I saw CJ Stroud. He's supposedly the leader for the starting quarterback. Heisman odds came out for him today at 15-1. For a kid that has not started a college football game. That was third. He's tied with Bryce Young, the kid at Alabama that has not started a college football game. So that just kind of goes to show you.
Multi-millionaire Bryce Young.
Yeah, right. And Nick Saban. Nick Saban is a genius. I hate Alabama. I can't stand Alabama. But he drops that. You want to talk about a recruiting pitch right there for every kid that wants to be a quarterback? Hey, I can go to Alabama and maybe make $1 million before I throw a pass or start a game. Yeah, that's pretty good. But there's no one in the Big Ten right now at Ohio State's level. And now that doesn't mean somebody can't pop up on a Saturday and beat them. That's college football. But right now, and Ohio State is just a machine recruiting wise. I mean, they just continue to add talent at a breakneck speed. I mean, it's them, Alabama, and Clemson. Everybody else is kind of right now lapping, trying to find out, see if they're going to be that fourth team in the playoffs. But I don't see a team that can really hang with Ohio State. That Oregon game should be fun. Because the Oregon is a solid team, especially up front defensively. But Ohio State's offensive line is going to be one of the best in the country. The receiving core is the best in the country. They got a really talented freshman coming in at running back. They are just loaded. If they can get a pass rush, the pass rush hurt them last year, and their secondary was not Ohio State level. So they got, and you saw what Alabama did in the national title game. That Alabama did that to everybody. What the hell you want them to do? So that was just kind of a machine. And I think Ohio State is in the thick of it when it comes to the playoff chases again, because even if it's not CJ Stroud, they got 2 other 5-star kids ready to go. I mean, it's just the embarrassment. And then they have the number 1 recruit in America in 2023, a quarterback coming in. And supposedly the best, and you know how that always goes, best quarterback prospect anyone's ever seen, yada, yada, yada. But it's a machine right now. And I'm not picking on it, but, Michigan is just not recruiting at a level where they can hang. I mean, they're signing 3-star kids, and you can't do that when Ohio State is literally just reloading 5-star after 5-star. And they have good coaching. I mean, I don't know where you go. If you're the rest of the Big Ten, you've got to hope for a lot of things to start going right for you and wrong for Ohio State to even make it close here in the next couple of years.
So is the rest of the Big Ten's best opportunity the transfer portal to try to catch up? Is the transfer portal the best opportunity then to catch teams?
Yeah. I think first of all, you have to recruit well, and you have to start defending your home state. I mean, that's the thing. Ohio State is going into Texas and taking players. They got into Pennsylvania. It took Fleming a year ago, ESPN's number one player in America, and he went to Ohio State over Penn State. You can't do that if you want to. You got to keep some of these kids home. Maryland's actually done a nice job recruiting. The only problem is Maryland still kind of sucks top to bottom on their roster, but they're adding some of these right pieces. It really starts with the recruiting. So, you transfer portal, okay, but you saw the top kids this year. Where did they transfer? They transferred to, the Tutu kid went from Tennessee to Alabama. His second choice was supposedly Ohio State. The wide receiver, Jamison Williams from Ohio State, he goes to Alabama. You would like to get some of these kids, but man, if you're not getting them at the word jump, and I don't know if the name, image, likeness thing can kind of flatten this out a little bit, but right now it is just.
Well, I think
you're playing for second place in the Big Ten.
When you look at, it's going to be hard for everybody to catch Alabama because Alabama has nothing else in its state, right? They don't have a professional team of anything, right? So the whole state is all about Alabama football. All the businesses, all the sponsors, everything pours in. That's what Nick Saban has down there. Is he's got everything. Whereas Ohio State, listen, they're the big thing, but you've got professional sports teams. You've got other things out there where sponsors can pour money into to compete with the Ohio State dollars. And I think that's why Nick Saban, listen, his best friend, I think, is the VP of, I think it's Miller. He's the VP of Miller, and they're all over the place down there. When you go into Alabama, I mean, everywhere he goes, and he's always got Toyota. He's got Toyota on with him, and he's got Miller with him. So, listen, there's a major advantage down there, and now I think you're starting to see it with this name and image likeness thing because that quarterback, like you said, hasn't thrown a pass. He's getting $1 million. He's a multi-millionaire, hasn't thrown a pass.
I mean, but you also remember, you've got Fortune 500 companies in Columbus, Ohio. And the old saying, when you grew up in Ohio, the two most important jobs in Ohio were the governor of Ohio and the quarterback at Ohio State. And it's not in that order. And, it's just, and the other thing is, you're right. There are the Browns, the Indians and the Reds and everything like that. But everybody in Ohio is a Buckeye fan. And, the alumni base is one of the largest alumni bases in America. And so I lived 14 years in the South as well. So I understand the passion that they have in the South for football. I think you're going to see, I think all this money's been there, right? I mean, you can't convince me that Tua at Alabama was eating ramen in his dorm room on a Thursday night because he was hungry, right? I mean, Tua was eating steak wherever he went, and the same thing at every other big college. It's just above board now. So I don't know how much it will even all this out. It will be fun to watch because I do think it's going to be an arms race, but it's not like I think all of a sudden Kansas State is going to pop off with, a deal with Xerox and have their quarterback on the TV commercials or anything like that.
All right, Randy, let's hear what do you got with Michigan?
I got to tell you, Matt sounds like every Buckeye fan I know, right? Yeah. I do agree with him that the Buckeyes are the team to beat in the Big Ten, no doubt about it. And they are one of the top 2 or 3 teams nationally. There's no question about it. I don't know. The recruiting, Michigan recruiting at the 3-star level is not actually accurate. They've got a lot of 4-star recruits. They've got a couple 5-star recruits in this class. You only play 11 guys at a time. So if you go back over their 4-year recruiting period, they probably have 70 or 80 4-star or better guys on their roster. So they've got the roster. What they haven't had in the last 4 or 5 years is the right coaching staff in place. And this year they went through the complete overhaul of the coaching staff. They brought in Ron Bellamy. They brought in Steve Klingsdale from Kentucky. They brought guys in not only that can coach, but also that can recruit. And I think that's something that Jim Harbaugh realized, that they were not recruiting at the level that they needed to be. And I think that's a change that they've made.
Do you think, let me ask you a quick question about that. Do you think that if you put a headset on Little Harbaugh running around your house and he ran around that sideline, up and down the sideline, do you think that they'd get any better or any worse? If your little dog could run up and down the sideline, they play the same.
Well, he'd be inspiring without question. I don't know about the rest of it. Here's the thing. What I like about Michigan this year is I do think it's got to come down to their quarterback play. They got Cade McNamara, who showed some stuff last year, but he got injured. And then they've got J.J. McCarthy, who's the number 2 pro. He played at IMG Academy. Was their quarterback there? Number 2 pro style quarterback recruit in the country. He's the heir apparent waiting in the wings. And they also brought in Alan Bowman from Texas. I think it's Texas Tech, who threw for over 2,000 yards in one of the seasons, over 6,000 yards in his career. So they've got guys in the quarterback room. They're deep at running back. They're good at receiver. Offensive line, that's going to be the big question mark on offense. On defense, it's been the same thing for the last 5 years. We cannot stop the freaking run, right? And so Don Brown, who is no longer with Michigan, was putting our cornerbacks on an island and bringing up our safeties to try to stop the run, and we were getting shellacked at both ends. That's got to stop. And so we brought in Mike McDonald, what the linebackers coach from the Ravens. He's going to be our defensive coordinator. We feel good. We're going back to a more traditional style defense. It's got to keep us in games longer, I think, and give us a better opportunity to win. I think Michigan finishes 3rd in our division this year. I think Penn State's probably a step ahead of us right now. I see Ohio State winning that side, and I think Ohio State probably wins the Big Ten.
You think Penn State is going to finish ahead of Michigan?
I think it's possible. I mean, they're farther along in their rebuild than we are, to be honest.
What a miserable season.
Come on, man. That's
I know.
going to kill you as a Michigan fan.
That's
to
a
even
miserable
use the word
It kills me
rebuild.
to say it. I mean, reading our message board right now is depressing. I mean, we're at basketball, we're sky high, right? But at football, we're like, what is going on here? When do we become a basketball school? But it's been a tough number of years.
What was the name of the team that beat you from North Carolina, the Division II team or Division III team? Who beat you 15 years?
That was 20 years ago.
15 years. It was
a great
2008.
day.
No, that was in the 90s.
No, that was Lloyd Carr was your head coach.
Yeah, well, Lloyd Carr he might even be still alive. I don't know, but bottom line,
he wasn't alive for that game. He was sleeping through that whole game.
Yeah, the worst part of that was we were ranked 2nd in the country at the time. Yeah. So I know.
I think Michigan's biggest problem though is they struggle to develop players. And, the times where they have gotten big-time recruits, like Donovan Peoples-Jones, who plays for the Browns, the thing that he just never seemed to get better there. And
it wasn't Donovan Peoples-Jones. That's not accurate. What was wrong there was we didn't have any quarterback play. Donovan Peoples-Jones was open all the time.
I mean, the guy was like one of the top 10 recruits in the country, and ends up going in like the 7th round of the draft. I mean,
right. But that was because we couldn't get the ball to him, and he couldn't showcase his skills. That was the problem. Okay. Quarterback play.
You can't develop a quarterback. That's a big problem too.
Yeah, right.
It might be the biggest problem you have.
Yeah,
I think that's where you're seeing the difference. Is Ohio State is getting these 5-star kids that are performing like 5-star kids, and it's just it's really. Look, I love it, man. I lived through the Cooper years, so I'm not going to feel – I still hate you, Tim Biaka Batuka. So I'm loving every single minute of this. And honestly, I think Michigan ducked Ohio State last year in one of the biggest puss-out moves of all time.
Matt,
and I think Ryan Day's going to hammer them, man.
Enjoy your run because your day is coming, brother.
Yeah,
it's coming.
He ain't going anywhere.
Just to give a quick heads up to you guys, Ohio State fans should be thanking a little school called the University of New Hampshire.
For what?
That's where Ryan Day is from.
Oh, Ryan Day there.
Yeah. So 3 coaches, 2 right now. Dan Mullen is from New Hampshire. Ryan Day, New Hampshire, coach in New Hampshire. And Chip Kelly was from New Hampshire, and Ryan Day coached under Chip Kelly at UNH. Wow. So, little representation there from my home state of New Hampshire. But listen, whatever Harbaugh did at Stanford, whatever he did with the Niners, it's not working at Michigan. And I used to be one of the biggest guys saying, hey, get Harbaugh and all your troubles are done because you're bringing in a guy that they're going to idolize. They're going to get everybody. It's just not working. He's an old school coach that doesn't understand the way things work in being a player's coach. He's not a player's coach, I don't think at all. He's old school. He grew up under Ditka, under Schembechler, people that screamed at you, yelled at you, got in your face, and you paid attention in disciplinarian. That's who he is. He's that guy. I don't think that style works in today's game because of how these since we've gotten Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all these things, it's a different mentality of player. You have to be, I think, a player's coach, or you can't be in their face as brutal as he is. I'll give you something about Nick Saban. Nick Saban has a whole psychology department for the football players. They go through like this yoga stuff and mental training to help with a lot of different things. He's got a whole separate thing installed down at Alabama.
That's easy to do when you don't have to go to class. Come on. I mean, let's be honest. Right? If your job is football and all you got to do is go to see Sykes, yeah, sure, that's great. Not great for the student athlete, but it's pretty good for Nick Saban.
Well, are you saying that you actually wait a second? Are you actually telling me that you believe that more people go to class at University of Michigan, the football squad at Michigan goes to class over the people at Alabama?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
They had 2 academic All-Americans on their offensive line 2 years ago, Alabama. I don't recall that from Michigan. Recall that from Michigan.
You want to compare the academic status of the Michigan team to the Alabama team? We'll do that. I'm going to do a little research.
I want you to go find it. I know you're wrong. I want you to go find it.
All right.
We've really created a monster.
Yeah.
I believe Ohio State led the Big Ten in academic All-Americans last year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think. Yeah. Well, sports management's a lot easier than kinesiology, brother.
Hey, you know what? Hey, I give Ohio State credit. It's going to be hard down to 100
You need
points.
that jacket. I can see your whole skin boiling right now.
Can you see the steam coming out of my ears? It's coming out of my ears.
Your forehead, it looks like a tomato right now, Randy.
Yeah,
it's just boiling.
Yeah, right. Oh, my Lord.
Oh, Randy's getting old.
Here we go.
All right, listen. So what sports do you pick usually, Matt? What sports do you usually bet on?
It's college football first and foremost. The NFL, I now this is because I lose. I have a full-on belief that Vegas just knows too much. It's so hard to get the NFL right, but I will bet the NFL. I suck at betting baseball. I'll do it. I'll just throw a couple bucks here if I got a game on. But outside of that, not much. I tried betting the Euro Cup.
How'd you do?
I did. I kept betting the wrong line. I kept betting and I kept thinking I won, but apparently it was all I kept making regulation bets and they win.
Oh, you had win, lose, or draw. You had win, lose, or draw. You had a 3-way.
I tell you, and that sucked.
Here, Matt, let me give you a tip on soccer. All right, bet the under.
It seems like it. I had my tea and crumpets and everything ready to go, and bully for me, it came up short. But no, college football is the best one, just because I think there's so much variance in it. There's just so much. College football, home crowd matters the most in any sport. I fully believe. I think coaching matters the most in all the sports, and I think momentum. You ask baseball nerds and everything like that. Momentum's not a real thing. Clutch isn't a real thing. All that. I think in college football, momentum is an actual, honest to God thing because they're young kids, and I'm telling you, there is nothing like a home crowd that can feel something going on in a big time college football game. It is. The NFL is not the same. NFL can have good home crowds and everything like that, but it is not the same as a college football. And I don't know if it's the band. I don't know what it is, but they're
kids. They're kids, and they're playing in front of the expectations. They feel it. Listen, in college football, statistically, more turnovers and penalties happen on road teams. It's off the charts. So for people to go out when they start betting college football, here's what most bettors do when I talk to them. When I ask them about a team, they think of that team on how they play at home. Oh, that team scores 30 points. They score 30 points a game. But they always think of them when they're beating up a team when they're playing at home. They don't think of the disparity when they play on the road, the difference of playing on the road and difference at home. it's the number one mistake I think bettors make is when they start thinking about how good a team is. They always think about how good they are at home. They don't look at the disparity between home and road. That's why I feel like, and lines are made. Most people don't understand why lines are made. Lines are made to try to balance out bets.
Right.
It's not necessarily what the sports book thinks, what the odds makers think is going to happen in the game. It's what they think is going to make people balance out the bets. And I think if you go in, real bettors that bet a lot of college football probably make the majority of their money betting college football. Because if you look and you stay disciplined week to week, you can find a lot of opportunities and a lot of good lines. And there's a lot of times when a team might be minus 10, but yet they get to halftime and they're down 3. And the second half line might be, the overall line might make it an even point spread. So they're only minus 3 in the second half. Those are stuff that you got to look for, the gimmies, where they're giving you so many points, 10 points, 14 points at halftime based off a bad first half. So I can't wait, man. We're 6 weeks away from college kickoff. And one of the opening games, I think, is Georgia and Clemson playing down in Charlotte. And then the next night is Florida State, Notre Dame. So opening weekend is going to be sick this year with guys playing good games right off the bat.
I think Wisconsin and Penn State play in week 1 too.
So, listen, there's going to be great games week 1. Man, I just listen. As soon as we got 10 more days, we hit August, man. It'll be a lot of college football talk. We'll start wrapping this stuff towards college football. We can't wait.
And some of the lines are already out. Like, I, honest to God, I have no idea how Clemson is favored over UGA. I really do think the thing that has held UGA back for years has been their quarterback play. It's just been awful. And how they didn't get Justin Fields on the field was Kirby Smart's a moron. God love him. But with JT Daniels, that was a really dangerous football team last year. And they bring a lot back. They lost a lot in their secondary. But, I mean, I know Clemson's got, DJ Ungalele at quarterback. Yep. And the kid's a stud. But you lost ETN. You lost a lot of kids. I think Georgia should be favorite in that game, let alone getting 4 points.
I think they got that. I think they got Ross. I think his name is Ross, the Clemson receiver that I thought he was the best receiver 2 years ago, and I think he got injured actually against Ohio State. He got a concussion. He never really rebounded from it. It might have been a neck thing or something, but I think he's back this year. He's 6'3", 6'4". But I think they're favored because of the quarterback. I think people saw that quarterback coming from Hawaii. He's a big multi-threat, almost like Cam Newton style quarterback.
Destroyed Notre Dame in that loss. Yeah. I mean, he played really well.
And I think I think that's why they're favored. I think people just aren't buying Georgia yet. But listen, that SEC is going to be the SEC all over again. Mm-hmm. The winner of the Big Ten this year obviously has a bid going in. The winner of SEC always has a bid. It always comes down to if Clemson holds strong and they won loss or no loss, they'll get in with the ACC. And then it always comes down to the same thing: who's your fourth team in? Is it a Pac-12 undefeated? Is it a Big 12 undefeated? Is it a Big 10 second place? So you can almost go into this season seeing the same things ahead of time. But again, I think it's going to be a lot of interesting matchups. One quick thing that I haven't touched on, but since you brought up Mahomes and you brought up Baker Mayfield, are you aware? So there's a crazy Baker Mayfield, and I think his name was Logan Webb, or the guy that went to Cal, Webb. All were ahead of Mahomes at Texas Tech. Mahomes was the third string quarterback at Texas Tech. May never had started had Baker Mayfield not transferred and then Logan Webb not transferred. We may never have a Mahomes if Baker Mayfield wouldn't have gone to Oklahoma, because Baker Mayfield was actually in the second spot and Mahomes was on the practice squad behind him and was never going to play. But Baker transferred. Then the starting quarterback actually transferred to Cal, which moved Mahomes up at Texas Tech. Otherwise, we may never have Pat Mahomes in the NFL right now. It's such a crazy, crazy thing that went on at Texas Tech, how everybody kept transferring, which moved Mahomes up and into the starting quarterback position there. Yeah,
so Baker was the walk-on at Texas Tech.
He was behind. He was behind. He was going to not. They had another quarterback. I'm losing my train of thought. They had another quarterback that slung it for 3,000 or 4,000 yards. Then there was, I think it was Webb, and he ended up transferring to Cal and became Cal's starting quarterback. That's when Baker went up and transferred to Oklahoma, and Mahomes moved up in the spots And the guy that was going to start in front of Mahomes actually got injured, and that's why Mahomes went in. You got to read up on the Mahomes thing at Texas Tech. It's crazy because he may never even been able to see the field had everybody not transferred in front of him.
And then that Oklahoma, Baker, Mayfield, Pat Mahomes college football game, one of the greatest offensive football games you'll ever watch.
It's crazy. It's, listen, the stories coming, Texas Tech for years has put out quarterbacks slinging crazy numbers.
Graham Harrell, where are you at?
Yeah, right. Was that the guy? When was he? Was he back in the early 2000s? When was Graham Harrell?
Way
he was really slinging. But this is the kind of stuff that I love looking forward to is college football, and we're at the spot where we can talk about it. So listen, here's what I want to do. I know you don't bet baseball. We got to pick our baseball picks for the day. We'll let you throw some picks out there and see what you think. We'll throw our picks out there, and maybe you can critique them. Randy, what do you got today? What do you got today, Randy?
Well, I'm starting off with the Arizona Diamondbacks versus the Pirates. Two crappy teams. Bumgarner's starting for Arizona. They're at home. I had to pick somebody, so I'm going to take the Arizona Diamondbacks getting the 8.91 points on four hitters.
Kelly, can I get Elon Musk, please? Can I get some Elon Musk on this one, please? Come on.
This is the guy who remember, I was 4-0.
Listen, here's the thing. You just started the statement by telling people who you're going to bet on with. Both of these teams are terrible.
They are terrible.
Both teams are terrible, and you want to put money on one of two terrible teams.
All right, let me get through this. My next pick is the Boston Red Sox on the road, getting 13.8 points, a very high number, versus the Toronto Blue Jays with Ray on the mound. I know Richards isn't all world, but I do like the Red Sox in this game.
Yep.
Oh, you agree? Wow.
Just because the Red Sox are such a good road team, and Ray's not worth writing home about.
No, it's because you're a Red Sox homer. That's why. But okay, there's that. All right, and then I'm taking the Dodgers at home, getting 8.29 against the Giants. I think you and I have talked about this before. I really like the Giants when they play at home. I hate them when they're on the road. Dodgers are due a win. I like the Dodgers getting 8.29. No.
Did you see what happened last night?
No, I missed it. What happened?
They imploded. The Giants were up 6-1. Gave up 3 in the 6th, and then a 3-run bomb in the 9th, and the Dodgers came back and beat them. So I'm with you. And the crazy thing about the Giants are the biggest story in baseball this year because now they're missing Longoria, Crawford, and Belt. They're missing 3 of their 4 starters on the infield. They're still sitting in first place. They had the game won last night. They imploded. The Dodgers are missing Betts and missing half of their pitching staff. This is an interesting thing that the Padres can't make a move on either of these teams. The Padres are wasting opportunities right now to make a move when they can, because when the Giants get back that whole infield, Longoria, Belt, and Crawford, that's the best team in the West. Yeah. So the Padres are blowing a major opportunity right now to make their move, and it's going to come back and haunt them as we get into August and September, and I am blown away by what Gabe Kapler is doing with that team. To keep the San Francisco Giants where they are, with that team coming into the season, they weren't expected to do anything. They're going up against the 2 teams that were expected to be all world, and they're doing it missing. And the other thing is Posey is under load management, obviously, at this time of his career as a catcher. He doesn't play every game. I am blown away by the job Gabe Kapler is doing with that team. I don't know whatever he's doing, it's working. Yes, they imploded last night, but they're still sitting in first place in front of the Dodgers, in front of the Padres, missing half their team. And that, to me, is incredible. So here's where I went today. I went with the Brewers. They got the Royals. They're at home. The Royals are awful on the road. I got the Rockies. It's always tough taking the Rockies, but they're at home. And they're a much better team at home than they are on the road. They're actually a decent team at home. And then the Nationals, just because they're hot and the Marlins are the Marlins. So those were my 3 picks for the day. And the funny thing was, I looked at that Red Sox game a long time and can't believe that one of the best teams on the road is getting the number they're getting. They are getting
180 on the money line.
Yeah, they're getting an unbelievable number. Yeah. So what I didn't do was I didn't look at the lineup. I don't know if everybody's playing. That would insinuate maybe Martinez and Devers are sitting down today, or one of those big 3 in that lineup is not playing, because there's no way that one of the top teams on the road in baseball that's sitting in first place is getting 180. It doesn't make any sense. That's the only reason I didn't pick it. So I like your pick and taking them because it's a value. It's an incredible value pick. It doesn't make any sense because Robbie Ray, he's a 3 or 4 pitcher. He's a 3 starter or 4 starter. He's not a top of the line starter. And so, all right, Kelly, let's run, take the money and run real quick. Take the money and run. All right, what do you got, Rickshaw?
Boston Red Sox on the money line at 180. That's where I'm headed.
All right, mine's the Brewers at home against the Royals. I'm going to put the line up. Listen, they've been playing great the last month. They lost, I think, yesterday, but the Royals are below 30. I think they're 33% on the road, and then the Royals. They're playing like the Royals that we know. So I like the Brewers at home. Anything out there stick out to you, Matt? Do you like any baseball today?
The only one I was looking at was the Twins. The betting against the Twins. They're just
Good bet.
Anytime they even get a lead, their bullpen is just so bad they can't keep it. And the White Sox, they're a better baseball team. So that's kind of the only one that at least jumped out to me. So
yeah, I actually like the over in that game.
The philosophy behind that was 100% correct. Bet against the Twins, and they've got a horrible bullpen, probably the worst bullpen in baseball. So I couldn't agree. It's awful. It's an awful bullpen. So yeah, I would agree with that. All right. So listen, any last thoughts about any last thoughts about Ohio State or Cleveland Brown fans? What should they be thinking? You got a Michigan guy on here, so you got a chance to he's a Lions guy in Michigan, and both teams are down right now, and you got the Browns and Ohio State.
Look,
good chance to swing for the fences.
I've had some tough weekends in my life as a Browns fan. So I never want to kick any NFL fan when they're down. But you know what? It's I cannot wait for this football season. It's going to be fun. Yeah. I'm going to take my son to his first ever NFL game. I'm going to take him to the Browns-Vikings one. So I'm looking forward to that. And look, at the end of the day, we have no idea what's going to happen. That's what makes the NFL and college football fun. Yeah, you're right. We probably know 3 out of the 4 playoff teams, but you never know. I mean, the quarterback from Michigan could come in and light it up and actually make that game competitive for once. That would be fun. And but I do think it's going to be an absolute throttling this year, and I can't wait for it. There's one I don't feel bad when they lose. It's Michigan, man. And
throttling.
Hey, Matt, just a little history lesson for you. Go back and look at the all-time record, buddy.
Yeah, let's grab those leather helmets. It was great.
Right. I've got a bet on right now, and it's in regards to the Michigan-Ohio State game. So we'll have Matt back on after the game, and the loser of that game has to have a title under their name of Throttled. I wanted to say Throttled under their name as we're recapping that game.
I think I saw the opening line was 18 points, Ohio State favorite, and I think that thing's going to hit in the 20s by the time kickoff rolls around.
It sounds like we might have the basis for a wager. We'll talk in November. Right?
All right, guys. Listen, it's been a lot of fun. Thanks, Matt, for coming on and joining us and talking. We look forward to talking to you again soon, man. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
All right, guys. Everyone else, go get some money on some games. Enjoy, win, and we'll be back on Friday. Get the money and run.